Well, in the studio with me this morning, I have, I've got a bird, and I've got a couple of people from the Wildlife Rehab Center, the Winnipeg, Rehab Center. I have the Executive Director, Zoe Nakata. I've got one of the volunteers out there, Steve, and they brought in the Avro, a bird, the Swainson's hawk. So we'll have a little conversation with Avro in a few minutes. But first, I wanted to welcome you both to the studio. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Zoe, so why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about who may not be familiar about the Rehab Center?
Sure. So Wildlife Haven Rehabilitation Center is a nonprofit organization, and basically our mission is rescue, rehabilitate, and release. So we take any injured, sick, or orphaned wildlife in need of care. Mm-hmm. We bring them into our center. We've got experts that work to either rehabilitate or cure their injuries, and then we release them back into the wild. Mm-hmm. So we're a nonprofit organization completely run on donor dollars and lots of volunteers, and we're happy to say that we're actually thriving as an organization and doing some really exciting work.
Well, I can see with Avro, absolutely. Well, let's talk about Avro in a few minutes, but you're in the process, and you've been for the last number of years of moving into a new facility. Tell us first of all about the original facility and what the new one will offer for your organization.
That's right. So Wildlife Haven has been operating for almost 35 years. And in those 35 years, we've never had a permanent facility. We've been very lucky to always have a place to rent, a place to stay. But that comes with its limitations. And so we've been, the current place where we are now is actually a decommissioned barn in Ile-des-Chênes, which we're renting. And so we've been very resourceful, and with our volunteers that help us, build perches and things like that, we've been able to manage. And we care for over 1,600 animals per year, so obviously it's working. But it's been the idea for a long while now that we need a permanent home for our rehabilitation program. And so came the idea for this wildlife rehabilitation campus that we're currently building. So we'll now have a permanent home. So we're going to be in Ile-des-Chênes still. And it's going to be a whole campus that will specialize in the wildlife care for injured, sick, and orphaned animals.
So when you say campus, are there going to be educational aspects of it as well, as well as just a place to house them and rehab them?
That's right. So it's actually even a few buildings on a piece of land, and we'll have an education center, which we will invite schools to come in, different people from the community to learn about what we're doing. And our education program it has a lot of value because we help individuals learn about the wildlife that we have here in Manitoba, how to protect them, and how to respect and protect their environment. Because really, the least amount of animals that come into our care, that's good for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. We're happy to be there for the needs, but also if we can diminish some of those risks, then that's good for everybody. And then we have a whole wildlife hospital, state-of-the-art treatment for wildlife animals. We have an overwintering building for waterfowl that need to stay with us over winter. Here in Manitoba, with our very, very cold winters, we sometimes have different birds that have missed the migration. Mm-hmm. And so if they stay behind outdoors in winter, well, they won't survive. So we take them in, and we'll now have a building just for them, specific to their needs, with water ponds indoors, perfect temperature control, so that we're able to keep these waterfowl.
Like a deluxe hotel.
Very deluxe, yeah, very deluxe. So we're going to be able to keep them over the winter without stressing them, without them being too cold, or and then once the weather clears up in the spring, then we're able to release them back into the wild. We also have large flyways where we can make sure that that the birds specifically are strong and able to fly proper distances before we release them back into the wild. So we've got these really long 200-foot cages where we're going to be able to do flight training for our eagles, our owls, all sorts of birds, to make sure that they're building up their stamina and their muscles, and that they're able to then be released back into the wild. So it's about an 18-acre facility with a lot of different parts that are going to be able to answer the need of our wildlife.
I'm in conversation with Zoe Nakata. She is the executive director of I always got to make sure I get the name right. It's at Wildlife Haven Rehab Center, which is based out of Ile-des-Chênes. So tell me and tell our listeners some about the animals. We talked about the birds, and we've got one in the studio with us this morning. What other kind of animals would you rehab there?
So basically, we take a lot of different animals. If right now in care we have baby coyotes where the mother is deceased, so we're taking care of them till they're big enough and strong enough to go back into the wild. We recently had a fox that was that had mange, so we had a treatment process for her, and she's actually ready to be released on Saturday.
Wow.
So we're quite excited about that. She's completely cured. We have, this time of the year, we have a lot of baby squirrels and baby rabbits that have been orphaned. So we actually have volunteers come in all times of the day to feed these babies with syringes, and the baby raccoons are being fed with bottles. It's actually quite cute, but to make sure that they get the nutrition they need. Yeah. And then once they're big and strong, then we release them back into the wild. We have a lot of songbirds that come in. Window collisions is a big one. Mm-hmm. So we treat their injuries often, just a bit of time to recoup and proper nutrition, then they're able to go back into the wild. We've had geese,
bunnies,
lots of bunnies. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then owls, also baby owls. Mm-hmm. So we have a few in care right now.
I've seen a picture of some of those little owls.
Yes.
With the barn owls, is that what they are? Those little ones? Or those little owls? They're so tiny.
Yeah, they're very cute.
Like they fit in the palm of your hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously all of this requires, a good amount of money, and especially this new building that you're doing, this campus has, and you've been on a fundraising drive, and you haven't quite reached the total of what you need to move into it yet. So tell us about how much more you're looking for and what people can do to donate and get you to that point.
That's right. So being a nonprofit, we're completely reliant on donor money. We're not government funded. We don't have...
Which I can't believe.
Yeah, well, we make do with what we have.
Yeah.
But we're so very fortunate that we have supporters actually across North America. For this capital campaign, we've raised about $2.5 million so far from the generosity of individuals, of foundations, companies, corporate sponsors. So that's really the reason that we've come so far. But we're now we need about another $700,000 to complete the project. So if any of your listeners had a chance to come out to our open house or to see some of the pictures we have of our campus, we're actually very close to being done. As we speak, we're taping, we're almost painting. So we've come a long way, but we do need an extra $700,000 to complete the project and move in. Mm-hmm. And I mean, once we move in, then these animals, like Avro here, they'll be getting state-of-the-art care, and so that's really what we're all striving to do, to make sure that these either our education ambassadors or injured wildlife are getting the care they need in the best facility possible. So if people are interested in donating, I mean, we have our website, wildlifehaven.ca. Yeah. There are different options. We have brick pavers that people can buy with their names or the names of a loved one. We have granite benches. We have different naming right opportunities. And like I said, because we're a charitable organization, all contributions are tax deductible, and we're more than happy to work with people to see what can best suit their interest and how we can all contribute to treating these wildlife animals.
Well, if I had the money, I'd write you a check today. I promise you that, because I think it's an amazing thing you're doing. I mean,
thank you.
I think that they're obviously wildlife are such an important part of, we don't always see them.
That's right.
And we don't always see them in the odd time. And it's funny because I take a drive around Assiniboine Park sometimes and I see the deer. Just seeing the deer in the wild and that kind of thing, it just makes my day.
Yeah.
It truly does. And to see people helping, some of these wildlife, they're obviously impacted by us.
Yes.
Generally, they're impacted by the humans, helping them get back to where they should be.
Yeah, it's part of our responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you guys are doing an awesome thing. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
And just before we wrap up, I wanted to pass it over the microphone over to Steve for a second. You can tell me, Steve, tell me a little bit about this beautiful, beautiful bird we have here.
Yes, this is Avro. Avro is a Swainson's hawk, and they are local. They're indigenous to this area. They like the plains, and they fly all the way to Argentina in their migration, over 10,000 miles. each way. Takes them 2 months there, 2 months back. They come back here, build their nests, have their young. Young get old enough to fly, and they're back on their way by the end of August back to Argentina. Avro has a wingspan of about 4.5 feet.
Yeah.
He came to us as a male Swainson's hawk, identified as such, and we thought that's what he was. But 3 years later, he left us a little gift in his enclosure. He left us an egg, which told us he's no longer a he is a she, which is an interesting point, because in the raptors, it's very, very difficult to tell the difference between the males and the females. Females are generally 20 to 25% larger than the males, and that's really the only way that you can tell the difference.
Well, the most important thing is that they know the difference.
They know the difference.
They know the difference. They can tell each other apart a lot easier than we can.
Yes.
Obviously, yeah. So she's been there for, what, 7 years?
6 years.
6
She's
years.
6 now. Yeah.
Okay.
And she came to us because she had an unfortunate collision with a car. So she is actually missing one eye. And hawks of all types hunt by sight, sight first. So being blind in one eye, she has difficulty flying, and she can't hunt. So she's now an ambassador with the center, and we take her out to schools.
Well, it's a pleasure to have both of you in the studio, for sure. Thank you for bringing her in this morning.
Thank you.
Steve is a volunteer. He's retired from his full-time gig, and now he's even busier now. He works. One of the things he does is he volunteers at the Wildlife Haven Rehab. And again, you can go to wildlifehaven.ca for more information, and also to donate. Whatever you can, donate. They're looking for a little bit more money, about $700,000 more, to get into this amazing new facility. So again, Steve and Avro, thank you for coming by, and Zoe, best of luck with the rest of your campaign.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
And they're always looking for volunteers as well. So if you're a fan of nature and animals and want to help them out, go to their website, wildlifehaven.ca. And don't forget, I'm going to post this video so you'll get a good look at the bird, and I'll also post some pictures of it as well. She's beautiful. Avro. Oh, look at that wingspan. I love it.